Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the 2019 drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is award-winning investigative reporter Bob Mackin, publisher of thebreaker.news. Welcome back to the show, Bob.
Thank you.
Bob, you've just come out of a courthouse with the latest saga connected to the BC Legislature spending scandal. What can you tell us?
Well, the scandal's taken a bit of a detour to Surrey Provincial Court. That's where a lawyer for Post Media was making an application to unseal the information to obtain production orders. Basically the laundry list of items that the RCMP in their investigation wanted to get and perhaps even got from the legislature. This does seem to weigh heavily on the wood splitter part of things, but this document they want to get their hands on and fully unredacted is from April 9th. We don't know what's in it because it's redacted, although there are some hints here or there, because there are some items that were read into court that described what is in the document, but we don't know. Post Media says they want to get this because this investigation is now in its second year and would like to see, well, what have the police done? It's in the public interest, they argue. And this would show how the RCMP is working and what evidence they've gathered. But the special prosecutor, one of the two special prosecutors, was in court, Brock Martland. He argued against the application. So did a lawyer for the Attorney General of Canada, who's acting on behalf of the RCMP. As well, lawyers for Gary Lenz and Craig James were also in court, and they completed the quartet that argued against the application. They all seem to say that now is not the time to release this information because this is a sensitive and ongoing police investigation, and there are names of other people in there as well who aren't exactly the targets of the investigation, but people who may have evidence or people that may know something about the two people that we do know are under investigation, Craig James and Gary Lenz. So they argued as well about that there's other reasons to not release the information at this time. And the judge decided to reserve his decision. It was a full day in court, basically, with four lawyers making their presentations and also getting a chance to rebut each other. So the judge didn't have time to take sober second thought to make a decision today. Didn't say when the decision will be made. But there could be some more information coming out that would tell us the story of what the RCMP has been doing. We do have a lot of stories in this case. We do have Daryl Pluckus, the speaker, his watershed, his scathing report from late January. We've got the replies of Craig James and Gary Lenz from early February. We've got another report in response by Daryl Pluckus in late February. We do also have the report by Beverly McLaughlin, the retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada, from mid-May. And, of course, this week, Tuesday, we had the report by Doug Lafard, the former Deputy Vancouver Police Chief, who did an investigation under the Police Act on Gary Lenz to look at whether he upheld his badge in the oath he made to get that badge to be a special police constable, as well as to be the Sergeant at Arms of the British Columbia Legislature. And the ruling was that he committed an egregious breach of public trust by not properly investigating allegations that were made about Craig James taking a large quantity of alcohol from the legislature and delivering it to former Speaker Bill Barasoff back in April of 2013, and also the allegations that Gary Lenz lied to Beverly McLaughlin in her investigation. Her investigation was really on administrative employee-employer relationships and whether policies and procedures were broken, and she found that they were broken in the case of Craig James. In 4 of 5 categories, he committed misconduct and spending and elsewhere. And in that report, Beverly McLaughlin did not find the same for Gary Lenz. Gary Lenz was cleared in the Beverly McLaughlin report, but based on what we know now from this Police Act investigation by Doug Lepard, that maybe McLaughlin could have found against Gary Lenz if she had all the facts and if she hadn't been lied to. Beverly McLaughlin was not putting anybody under oath. Doug Lepard, his report was based on the Police Act, which was about the oath of office for a police officer, and Doug Lepard said no, that Gary Lenz lied, and he did not do his job properly, did not investigate allegations of a serious nature of theft of liquor from the legislature. So now we have the 2 characters in this, both retired in disgrace. And in court today, their lawyers were trying to keep further information away, and they wanted to let the RCMP do what the RCMP needs to do. Investigate. There was also some worry there about more information coming out from the RCMP, and whether that could harm the ability to get a proper jury together if this does go to trial. If there are charges, if it does go to trial, will there be a fair trial? Will they be able to find enough members of the public to be a proper jury whose minds aren't already made up on the case, that people can come to the court and be part of a jury with a fresh and open mind? So that was another concern made by the lawyers in the court today. But again, this happens on the heels of the Lepard report, which was a very, very thorough report. Again, it found that Craig James lied and didn't do his job properly, didn't investigate some allegations. The other aspect of this, because this was brought on by Ellen Mullen, the Chief of Staff to Daryl Plecas, who made the complaint to Plecas. Plecas is the supervisor of Gary Lenz, and under the law was allowed to take it to an independent investigator and let the investigator do the work he needed to do, which is Doug Lepard. The other part of the allegation that Ellen Mullen made was that a memory stick containing key information about the case from 2013, some statements and notes that Gary Lenz made, he didn't keep it on his computer in the computer network, but he put it on a memory stick, and that memory stick went missing while Beverly McLaughlin was doing her investigation. Ellen Mullen noticed it wasn't there when he took some photos on April the 3rd. It wasn't in the safe in Gary Lenz's office. And it didn't show up again until May 6th, which was after Beverly McLaughlin had finished her report. So there was severe questions about what happened to this potentially helpful piece of evidence. Lepard said it didn't compromise the investigation. His investigation didn't compromise Beverly McLaughlin's investigation, and he didn't find proof that it actually was taken. My reading of the report is this, that I don't think Lepard went down that road with as much passion as he did the other parts of it, because this was really to evaluate Gary Lenz and his honesty and integrity in doing the job as the Sergeant-at-Arms. It didn't appear that Doug Lepard actually took a trip over to Victoria and did the old gumshoe police work, sweeping for fingertips or looking for any other forensic evidence that could point to whatever happened to this USB stick. And again, the allegations were much stronger, and he had much more evidence that showed that Gary Lenz was not telling the truth. He had emails, he had cell phone logs, he had transcripts of the interviews that were done by Beverly McLaughlin, all things that actually we are not able to see because the appendices to this report are kept confidential, and there are some redactions in the report. But this report does get us closer to understanding what was going on and what shouldn't have been going on in the legislature for so long under these two fellows who now are retired, and they could face even more music because the RCMP is investigating, but we all know RCMP investigations, especially when they're breach of trust, can take a long time.
We'll have more with Bob Mackin right after this.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Mackin. Bob, was there some mysterious shredding going on concerning this case?
Yeah, well, part of Doug Lepard's report on Gary Lenz included an interview with a whole bunch of witnesses. One witness was Witness 10. Witness 10, he's not named in the report, but his title is in the report. His title is Chief of Staff to Premier John Horgan, and his name is Jeff Meigs. Jeff Meigs, the former Vancouver City Councillor for so long, with Vision Vancouver, has been Chief of Staff since John Horgan took office in July 2017. He was interviewed because in July of 2018, July 30th of 2018 to be exact, Daryl Plekas, Alan Mullen, Deputy Speaker Raj Johan, all went to the Premier's office, the Cabinet office in downtown Vancouver, Canada Place. That's where Daryl Plekas presented to Jeff Meigs a document about 40 to 50 pages, which included the allegations against James and Lenz. It was, I guess you could say, the prototype for the Plekas report as we know it. It was the preliminary Plekas report. All the information that he gathered since he became Speaker was in that report, and he had a short meeting with Meigs. Meigs didn't seem terribly enthused, but basically said you should take this to the police. Well, Plekas left the report with Meigs, and we find out now because of Meigs' testimony to Lepard that Meigs shredded the report. That's what he did. He shredded the report, and I've been able to confirm with the Premier's office that Meigs did that on his own volition. He did not seek any independent advice, any legal advice. He just took the report that he was given by Daryl Plekas and shredded it. And the testimony in it says that he didn't do anything more on that file until Mike Farnworth came to the Premier to brief him about the appointment of special prosecutors the day before Gary Lenz and Craig James were suspended and marched out of the legislature. So that was back in November. So this is a very serious allegation now, and that Jeff Meigs accepted some documents, and when Daryl Plekas was gone, shredded them. There's certainly some serious questions that had to be asked of, well, why didn't Jeff Meigs call the police himself? That's a reasonable question. If he was given this by Daryl Plekas, and his thought was, the motion to Plekas was that, why don't you call the police on this? Well, why didn't Jeff Meigs call the police? And why did he delete these records? Why did he destroy them? This opens up some serious questions about the NDP as we know it now. This happens the same week as Ginny Sims, we find out, is under RCMP investigation, and she is set to step down from cabinet because of that. And that connects with the whistleblower's complaints about Ginny Sims subverting the FOI law by communicating through various private email and social media systems.
Bob, on the report that Jeff Meigs shredded, were there other copies of it, or was that the only copy?
Well, that was the only copy that was given to Jeff Meigs. That's the only one we know of. And it's gone. Of course, Harold Plecas would have had his own, but unfortunately the Speaker functions in this information vacuum. The Legislature functions in this information vacuum, a vacuum that the NDP actually in its own speech earlier this year promised to solve and bring the Legislature into the FOI law, bring it into the 20th century, let alone the 21st. So, yeah, the Speaker's not FOIable, the Clerk wasn't FOIable, the Sergeant-at-Arms wasn't FOIable, but when, in that case, Plecas gave the document to Jeff Meigs, who is FOIable, working in the office of the Premier, Jeff Meigs, his reaction was hot potato, and didn't want to have the hot potato, so he turned it into French fries. French fries and let it languish in the garbage, and there it went.
Doesn't that violate a lot of different legislation, destroying potential evidence?
Well, I've got a message in to Michael McAvoy, the commissioner of the Information and Privacy Office of British Columbia. It's his job to look at these things, and I want to get his reaction to this. I want to find out if the Information and Privacy Commissioner's office will look at this. If not, launch a full investigation. I think there's a serious matter here, and if you go to social media right now, it's kind of funny because all these NDP supporters, NDP politicians are trying to make an excuse that that Meigs was just given someone else's document, and he shouldn't be criticized for throwing away that document. Well, I don't think it works that way, because what Harold Plecas did was what a lot of citizens do. They send letters. They give documents. They give reports to politicians, to ministry offices. Well, once they're in a ministry office, left at a ministry office, and the ministry then has it under custody or control. And this I think should be investigated, because this is also about the integrity of the NDP and what they sold voters back in 2017. The NDP in 2016, to be precise as well, they tabled some private members' bills in the Legislature in response to the BC Liberals triple delete scandal. The NDP were going to fix this. The NDP tabled a duty to document law that was going to have a $50,000 fine for the unauthorized destruction of government documents. It was going to outlaw this. It was going to do what the information commissioners had been calling for so many years to do, because they were going to do something that the Liberals weren't going to do, because the Liberals were caught triple deleting. Well, the NDP was going to do better. The NDP was going to table a new law and outlaw the practice of triple deleting, outlaw the practice of using sticky notes and throwing away sticky notes for keeping information in the Premier's office, for instance. That also happened under the BC Liberals. Well, now we know that the NDP, of course, has been in office for more than 2 years. They're in midterm, on the way to the 2021 election, if not sooner, and they've been caught. They did not fulfill that promise to have a duty to document law with fines to stop this. And not only that, they basically have been sinning just like the BC Liberals were sinning, and don't seem to care about it. Now being criticized heavily in the Legislature by the BC Liberals, and it's not looking good on the NDP. This could have been something that the NDP could have taken the high road on and fulfilled those promises early on in this term. Instead, here we are at midterm, and I think we're going to start to see voters look at this and say, wait a second here, you guys promised to be better, but you're just as bad. And that's going to erode some of John Horgan's base and support. I mean, he's enjoying a lot of support. He seems to be more of a popular leader than Andrew Wilkinson. But the BC Liberals will use this to hammer them the rest of this week, and maybe we'll use it for fundraising purposes and other purposes. They could use this to help rebuild their party if possible. Still, there's a long way to go. There are two people under investigation who were people that were very close to the Liberal Party, Craig James and Gary Lenz. but this certainly distracts from it. That the chief of staff of the premier, who came from a city hall which was known for its secrecy, seemed to have brought some of his old bad habits from 12th and Cambie to the legislature in Victoria.
Are the BC Liberals cooperating with this investigation into what I'm calling Chippergate?
I don't think they are. They're resisting it in every way, shape, doing whatever they can to mock and insult the whistleblowers, for instance. They've done everything they could to stand in this way because my sources tell me that they'll be caught in the crossfire. If no BC Liberals are charged, then at least some BC Liberals will end up in the stand, subpoenaed into court, and asked very tough questions on the stand. Again, Craig James was appointed by the BC Liberal caucus. He wasn't appointed by the all-party committee whose job it is to appoint officers of the legislature. He was put into place in 2011 by Christy Clark and the BC Liberal caucus. And he shared a good relationship with the BC Liberals. And there's allegations that he did some of their dirty work as well, and that he profited from it, as we've seen from some of the reports. So, no, the BC Liberals have not been helpful in any way, shape, or form. They've actually made themselves look really bad by attacking the whistleblower. I mean, this is supposed to be a party that was in power for so long that was supposed to be on the side of the taxpayer. Well, Daryl Plakis found smoking gun evidence that taxpayers' money was subject to waste and corruption. And the BC Liberals have done whatever they can to try to undermine him in every way, shape, or form. And Daryl Plakis is probably one of the most popular politicians in the province right now because he's standing up for integrity. And he's, again, he's an independent, not in the BC Liberals anymore. He never really was a political animal. He's just borne the brunt of the insults. And same thing with Alan Mellon as chief of staff. But every once in a while, as we've seen, Daryl Plakis has gotten some results and shown us what's really gone on behind the scenes, shown us how the sausage is really made, and this is a really bad smelling, awful sausage you'd never want to taste.
Well, isn't Daryl Plakis a criminologist by training, and he was a professor in criminology?
Yeah, that's the thing that I think Gary Lenz and Craig James kind of forgot about. That here's someone who came into the role of speaker who is esteemed in his profession. An academic, criminologist, author of dozens and dozens of studies and books. One of those books is about how to conduct an investigation. Here's someone who's renowned in Canada in his profession and known internationally. He brought that mind into that office, and when he started to see things go wrong, well, the criminologist inside him went to work and started to peel back the layers and find all sorts of waste and corruption, and here we are today.
We'll have more with Bob Mackin right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Mackin. Bob, what's happening with Jenny Sims?
Well, Jenny Sims is not in cabinet right now. She's still in caucus, which I find interesting. At least Ben Stewart, when he had his situation with Elections BC earlier in the summer, he stepped out of caucus and was independent until otherwise when Elections BC cleared him. We still don't know everything there is to know about that because he's not releasing the letter and Elections BC is not releasing the investigation report. But just to compare Ben Stewart with Jenny Sims, She stepped down as minister on Friday when a special prosecutor was appointed. Richard Peck, who is the lead lawyer, the most senior lawyer on Meng Wanzhou's defense team, interestingly enough, he is appointed as special prosecutor for this investigation, which we believe is connected to the whistleblower information from earlier this year about things that were going on in Ginny Sim's constituency office. She was signing endorsement letters for visa applications for various people from Pakistan. Some of them were on U.S. security watch lists. And there was a suggestion that potentially people within her constituency association were helping facilitate those meetings and potentially taking donations for her re-election campaign. And, of course, there was also the whistleblowers' information that showed that Ginny Sims was using various other ways to communicate away from government channels so as not to make her communications available via freedom of information. We'll see where this goes and how long Ginny Sims is out of cabinet for, and whether there's anyone else from Ginny Sims' office or any other office in government or her campaign group, which also has to face the music. It doesn't look good at all. This is actually a week. We're recording this halfway through the week on Hump Day, and it's not a good week for the NDP. The BC NDP under John Horgan is facing heat for the first time in such a concerted fashion that they've got their first full-blown scandal in Ginny Sims having to step down from cabinet, and then the chief of staff to the premier, the right-hand man of the premier, is facing some serious questions right now of destroying documents. This is interesting how political fortunes can turn, but still, I think the NDP still shouldn't feel invincible, but, you know, they can look across the aisle at the BC Liberals, and the BC Liberals are not at all a group which can claim the higher road, a group which still is trying to dig themselves out of the hole that they built for themselves in the final years of the Christy Clark government. And Andrew Wilkinson doesn't seem to have endeared himself to voters, and maybe some in his own base are questioning their support for him as well. So this also happens at a week where Andrew Weaver started the week with the big announcement that he decided that this is his last term in office. He will not be a politician anymore after the 2021 election. Possibly go back to academia to be a scientist at University of Victoria, but he figured out that this is it for him. So there'll be a Green Party leadership convention sometime next summer, it looks like. But in the meantime, Weaver is going to do whatever he can to help keep the coalition or the alliance that the Greens have with the NDP stable, to keep the NDP in power under their confidence and supply agreement, and he's going to do whatever he can to support the efforts of Darryl Plecas to clean up the legislature.
Was there anything besides Mr. Weaver's explanation or Dr. Weaver's explanation that it's time to turn the leadership over to younger hands?
No, not really. He did have a health issue recently, labyrinthitis, a rare condition of sudden and severe dizziness and vertigo and nausea. That happened, he said, after he had made the decision during the summer with his family that this was going to be his last term. When that happened, he said that only reaffirmed his decision. He was asked if he would consider going federal, because we're getting close to the end of the federal election, and the polls right now aren't looking good for Elizabeth May and the Greens. They looked better back in the start of September than they do the start of October, and you got to wonder how long will Elizabeth May remain as leader of the Green Party if she doesn't deliver on what was anticipated, which is seats in the double digits, perhaps. Her days could be numbered as leader, and people asked Andrew Weaver at the news conference if he considered going federal in any way, and his answer was quick, and it was firm that not on a stack of Bibles. He'd swear on a stack of Bibles not to do it, and would not do it. He's not interested in going federal at all. He just wants to get out of politics. He didn't want to be a career politician, but he wanted to get into politics to make some change. And I think you can point to Andrew Weaver as being one of the biggest change makers in British Columbia political history, because of that 2017 election. Election night, it really didn't end with any conclusion. The NDP was close to a tie with the Liberals. Liberals had just an edge. They lost their majority. A lot of people voted for the Greens instead of voting for the Liberals, which eventually spelled the end of the political career for Christy Clark. Well, the Greens had a decision to make, whether they'd side with the NDP, whether they'd side with the Liberals, or whether they'd just stay as is and let the legislature operate in kind of this strange fashion. But they made that decision about 20 days after the election, after some negotiations with both parties, and decided to sign a confidence and supply agreement to help the NDP to vote for the NDP's throne speeches and vote for the NDP's budgets, and do whatever they could also to help create policy that would be friendly to the Green cause. And you can point to a lot of things that have happened since then, good, bad, or indifferent, that the Greens have been part of. I mean, the carbon tax is one thing, but also the campaign finance reform is another thing. The Greens pushed to get a Site C public inquiry through the BC Utilities Commission. Of course, the Greens wanted it ended. They didn't want Site C to continue. Well, they didn't get that wish, but at least they got the public inquiry to happen, and that did happen. A number of other initiatives as well that they insisted upon in the confidence and supply agreement, and Andrew Weaver says he's pretty satisfied with the way it's worked, and John Horgan says he's pretty satisfied with the way it's worked. I think Weaver just says it's now's the time to at least give the party plenty of notice so they can get the leadership convention going for next summer, and that he can continue to serve as an MLA and leader of the party until then, and also contribute to the Legislative Assembly Management Committee to help Daryl Plekas clean up the legislature.
Bob, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you.
My guest has been award-winning investigative reporter Bob Mackin, publisher of thebreaker.news. You can find it online at thebreaker.ca. If you have any questions for Bob or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.